Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Lurkin from Mobalytics, and uh, I'm doing a PowerPoint. We're just going over the all the season 4 changes that Sorcerer is getting, and it's an intro to Sorceronomics, baby. So let's just start off real quick with the itemization changes. So all the items now are only going to have 3 affixes, and they're going to have higher values. Um, and then there's going to be 2 tempering slots. So you can put movement speed, or I don't exactly know what the other ones are going to be, but it's something like fire, like say firewall area size, something like that, something that kind of affects skills a little bit. So then we have masterworking, and like as you can see down here for the tempering, bone spirit damage, chance for bone splinters to cast choice, sort of cheeky shit like that. So now we have masterworking. Instead of 5 upgrades, it's 12. These stats are going to go up 5% per time. And these ones down here too, they're all going to go up 5% each time. And then randomly at Masterwork 4, 8, and 12, one of these 5 stats is going to go up 25%. So we don't exactly know how this is going to work. Where like if you don't temper something onto it to start, or maybe they'll always come with tempering. I don't know. But there could be some play here with like masterworking first and then trying to temper it. I don't know. We'll see. So then we have greater affixes, and I think like there's 3 stats here. I think all 3 of these can roll greater. We'll see how hard it is to get a 3 out of 3 greater or like a 4 out of 4 greater unique, because you can get greater on uniques now. And then these values are just 1.5x, so you're just gonna be able to get a ton of attack speed, cooldown. That's sort of the name of the game now. Is like we can get a giga amount of like intelligence, attack speed, crit chance, stuff like that. So opens up builds a little bit. So we have a little bit of a view on what affixes are going to be. If you check out D4 builds, maybe they have some data mined info or something like that. But they had some affixes. So I'm just gonna go over what are the good ones to look for. Um, so armor wherever you can take it. That's helm, chest, pants, and then CDR basically wherever you can take it. And then health basically wherever you can take it. So helmet would look like armor, CDR, health, and then instead of health you could have max mana. Chest, armor, DR, health. And the reason, we're used to having armor triple DR, but now it looks like there's just one DR roll. That's what they meant by when they said the armor roll, like the damage reduction rolls are going to be harder to come by. I think it's because they got rid of all the 12 like DR bleeding while enemies are painting their toenails and stuff. So that's gone. So armor DR health, that's the best way to get your effective health up. 3 best stats for that. Gloves, crit, attack speed, and then plus skill ranks or intelligence. That's looking really what it's like gonna be. And then like say you're running Incinerate, it'd be like skill ranks, int, maybe all stats because you don't really need crit or attack speed on Incinerate. Pants, armor, DR, health, or like skill ranks or int. Like ranks to ball lightning, stuff like that. But typically, even though Tibalt's got nerfed, we're probably still going to slot Tibalt's like almost on every build just because the mana regen's so amazing. Boots, uh, MC mana cost reduction, TP ranks, and int. Those are pretty standard. But now we're looking at Ice Armor got a pretty big buff, and there's going to be some actual hard content. So Ice Armor ranks could be really good. And then also there's this permanent Flame Shield build going around, so Flame Shield ranks could be really strong. But typically, you're gonna on most of my builds, it's either going to be Asu's Heirloom Boots for the crit chance or Flicker Steps for the unstable currents ripping. So Wand, Dagger, and I do include a staff because staffs. There'll be more on that. Staffs may be back in the meta, but we're looking at you're always going to want int. And then I would say on most builds, besides ones that don't need attack speed, you're going to want int and attack speed. Those are like the 2 main staples. It's so important. And then you're either going to take like an additive, or you're going to take all stats, or you're going to take mana cost reduction. And you just need to see how your build feels. Like, do I need the mana cost reduction roll here, or am I all set? And I think it's just called resource cost reduction now. So the focus is going to look really similar to what it looks like now. Crit, CDR, and then you pick either resource gen or mana cost reduction. It's pretty standard stuff there. Rings, we are in like a double unique ring meta, whether it's Tel Rasha and Starless or Tel Rasha and like Blue Rose or X-Vals. But if you are running a ring, crit, resource gen, plus life, and then like if you don't feel like you need any more life because we have a ton of health now, you just spring for some additive like vuln or crit damage. Amulets are super simple now. And it looks like a lot of the bullshit affixes that are on amulets, like you could roll 35 affixes. It looks like they got chopped down. So we're really just looking at 3 ranks to a passive, CDR and MCR. And I'm really interested to see what like a greater passive, like can we get greater passive ranks and and then like masterwork it and get like 6 ranks to Devouring Blaze? That would be fucking crazy. Uh, so sort of like the broad effects of the affixes and itemization changes. We're gonna get a bunch of fat cooldown, attack speed, crit chance, mana cost reduction rolls, like a ton of intelligence. Super dope. Staff meta. So one thing I will be looking into in the PTR is uh running a glacial staff. Like for on Blizzard, running the glacial aspect on a staff because you get a double, and now also uh, the flat damage aspects like glacial stuff like that. I think they scale now with attack power or damage, DPS, something like that. So I don't exactly know how it's all gonna work, but from what it looks like, we're gonna get more. We might get more damage out of glacial, and the staffs are now viable because of if you can get like a large amount of helmet and amulet CDR, like if you can get greater rolls on those, and then like masterwork them, then it's sort of like you could probably achieve similar cooldown to what you have now, so you won't really feel a difference, and you can get away with the staff because what we have now feels fine, feels good. So uh, I'm really excited for that because we haven't used staffs in a long time. They really fell out of the meta after the crit and vuln bucket changes. So yeah, and then also you can get attack speed and mana cost now on a wand or a staff. So that's just so great because there's no more monopoly like on Ancient Flame giving us the attack speed. So I'm not going to be slotting Ace's Ferocity on basically any Frost or Lightning builds. We're going to Shatter Inverse. Damage reduction aspects and passives, like their stocks, just got increased a lot because there's less damage reduction rolls that we can get, like Ever Living, Verse Mastery, DR Branding and DR Chilled on the Paragon, and Disobedience got a nerf. So, we may just want to take all the damage reduction aspects that we can get and then completely ignore Disobedience because we can get greater affixes and masterworked armor affixes on like our helmet, chest, and pants now, so we can get armor that way. Kind of like that they nerfed Disobedience. It like really bothered me seeing builds where like they didn't spec into armor at all. There's like Godslayer raiment to bolts. And I know we didn't spec into armor at all with any of the teleport enchant builds with the fireball enchantment, just because we don't need to. But I really always just hated like someone throwing together a build and then just slotting Disobedience on the amulet, and it's like it just really didn't look like a theory craft. It just looked like, I don't know, the easy way out. I digress. So we got some bug fixes. These are all nerfs, and then these are buffs. These are just a couple of them. Frigid Breeze no longer grants mana back with all forms of damage type. It's just cold damage now. Same thing with Asu's Ferocity. You're getting this 25% crit strike damage with every skill, with every element type. Now it's just fire. But it wasn't the reason we were ever running it in the first place. Like half of us didn't even know Ace's Ferocity was bugged. We were honestly just running it because we wanted the attack speed and there was no other way to get it. So this aspect like still can have value on like a frost or a cold build, but I just don't think it's worth it anymore. Get your attack speed on your wand and your gloves and hammer the shit out of it with Masterworks and get that attack speed up. So Tactician, Winter, and Torch are no longer bugged. This 10% X and these multiplicative damage, they used to be additives, now they work again. So looking forward to putting Tactician and Torch back on builds if I can, and we'll see about Winter. Winter got buffed to 18%, but you still got to chill something. And if you're fighting a boss and it's just him, you're never gonna proc this glyph. So it's like, why would I take Winter when I could just take Tactician for an easy 10? And now Tactician's gonna have a longer duration. I think it's an extra 4 seconds for each defensive skill you don't have on the bar. So like if you're only running Ice Armor, Teleport, and Flame Shield, it's going to last for 8 seconds instead of 4. And if you're only running Teleport, it's going to last for like 16 seconds or something. I don't know. It's crazy. So the most important buffs that we're looking at, one is Devouring Blaze. So with just 3 ranks, 21% crit strike damage against burning enemies, and this used to be immobilized. So immobilized stocks are down. I'm talking about like Meteor, Fists of Fate. Those stocks are way down because the value of those before was getting immobilized, but now enemies just need to be crowd controlled. But Fist of Fate still might have some value on like staggering bosses really fast, but we'll see. But as much as I've talked shit and as much as I hate running Firebolt enchant, I'm slotting that shit on everything. It is so busted right now. It's going to be so busted this season now that it's crowd controlled, like 1.6x damage. And then imagine if we can get 4 or 5 or 6 ranks on an amulet because we don't know what it's going to look like with the greater affixes. Like it's stupid. Same thing with Conj Mastery. Look at this. So Conj Mastery used to just be this 3% increased damage at 3 ranks. Now they're going to give us 3% movement speed and 6% mana regen. Like my boy's got a screenshot of him. My boy's got a screenshot of him having 34 Conjurations out. The most I've ever actually had out, actually playing the game and not in a test dummy, has been like 18. So you can regularly get 10, 12, 14 Conjurations out. Like it's possible. And then when you're at 6 ranks, or even if it's more than 6 ranks, this is getting nerfed to shit. Let me just tell you that. Because this is going to be busted. Don't. That's crazy. And then Ice Armor is absolutely going to be busted. The Shimmering Ice Armor now is when it's active, it reduce. So when you're using Ice Armor, it lasts for 6 seconds. It's got like a 12-second cooldown-ish, something like that. Depending on your cooldown reduction. So every time you spend 50 mana, it reduces its cooldown by 2 seconds. TLDR, Perma Ice Armor. Key passives to use. So we're going to talk about Shatter. Shatter's going to be really big next season, especially with the introduction of the pit with multiple tiers, hundreds of tiers, really hard enemies. So Shadow's going to be really good. After freeze expires, enemies explode for 25% of the damage you dealt to them. So, and then explosions from the Shatter key passive, this got changed. They used to have to die while they were frozen. Now it's just the explosions from it are going to deal 45% more damage. So honestly, we'll see about Shatter. It really depends on how hard it depends on when you're pushing P, when you're pushing pits, what is stopping you from completing it? Are you not able to kill the mobs in time? Are they killing you? Or are you not able to kill the boss? Is it killing you? So we'll see if we do run Shatter, because as always, be wary of putting your eggs into crowd control baskets, because we always do need to balance bossing and mobbing, because that is the fundamental flaw still of this game, is that you can't crowd control bosses until they're staggered, and Shatter won't do anything for bosses. I digress. Verse Master, they shadow fixed Verse Mastery, the criticals. Where the hell is it? So basically, the shock skills dealing more damage to close enemies used to not work. So now close enemies they're going to take 15% increased damage from you, and then deal 20% less damage to you. And I think this bonuses goes up to like 20 and 25 or something like that. So Verse Mastery is officially goated again. I think Overflowing is completely out of the meta. If I will be fully honest, I think Overflowing is gonna be bad because we can get a lot of cooldown now and we have flicker steps. So take the Verse, take the close DR and the crazy damage that you do. And then with Verse comes one of the best aspects in the game is Mage Lord. 20 if you put this on an amulet, it's going to be it's like 43% all DR when you're like close to enemies. Mage Lord is so good. So now let's go into Asus Ferocity and Combustion. So Asus Ferocity, the damage for all got bug fixed. It's just fire damage now. But this part down here, it's still going to proc, because you still get both bonuses with any form of damage that hit a boss or kill something with a crit. So you still will be able to use Ancient Flame with it. But there's new ways to get attack speed. So I'll only be slotting this on like direct damage fire builds, and Combustion is still kind of mid, but like what else you got? More burning damage. So nerfs, Tibalt's Will got nerfed, and I'm actually kind of happy about this. Everyone like, oh, you nerfed Tibalt's. Yeah, dude, it was broken. It was 40% damage. Like Tibalt's was basically an uber unique. Now it's 20% damage. Like Tibalt's would still be good even if there was no fucking damage. So you get so much resource back, and Sorcerer has so many forms of unstoppable. So 20% damage, and that's going to last for a second longer. Disobedience got nerfed, so I might just take this off my builds, if I'm going to be honest, and just go for... We got to see. I think, honestly, what the play is going to be is if you are pushing really high tiers of Pit, you're just going to run Juggernaut, man. Like, even though your evade's going to suck, like, bro, Juggernaut sucks because of the evade, and I don't like running it. But at the end of the day, Juggernaut is so good. You know what I mean? Like it's so much armor. It depends what enemy level and what kind of armor we need, but yeah, we might all just running Jug. Maybe we'll have like a chest piece that we use, like a second chest piece that we use when we're doing Pit. And Flame Shield enchant got changed. That's for hardcore core only. It's no longer just proccing all the time. It's no longer proccing when you're gonna die. It's like some other stuff after you lose 100% of your max life. I don't really care about it. New goated uniques. Fractured Winterglass. This thing, it looks so good. It's got Vuln, non-fizz, cooldown, 2 ranks to Conj Mastery. That's not even up. Like, this thing's so good. So, every other time that you hard cast a Frozen Orb, we're not talking enchant, and we're not talking the Frozen Orbs that come from the Lightning Spears. That's my understanding. Every other, because it's 50% chance, every other hard cast a Frozen Orb, it's going to make a random Conjuration. So you're going to have like Ice Blades and Lightning Spears shitting out. And then whenever you get lucky hits, those Conjurations are just going to shit out Frozen Orbs. So I'm slotting this bitch on Frozen Orb and then Ball Lightning, like with all the Lightning Spears going around. This is going to like take, Fractured Winterglass is going to like take over. It's going to be sick. And then we got a new Uber unique, Tyrael's Might. Tyraels. Basically, whenever you're at when you're at full life, which we are going to be because we have ice armor like perma now, like your skills unleash basically an artillery shrine. So that's gonna be goated as shit. Even though like the affixes on here it's so mid, but you get 10% DR, but it's just free artillery shine. So here's my super not scuffed tier list. It's just the way I'm thinking. Blizzard's still going to be so strong. It's because if it's basically I'll go over real quick. The reason why Blizzard and Ball Lightning are like always in S tier is because of the stacking that they can do. Like with Ice Shards or Fireball, it's cast, 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 cast. But with Blizzard and Ball Lightning, it's like Blizzard is at 12 however many blizzards you can cast in 12 seconds is how much damage you can do like in one area. And then Ball Lightning, I don't know. Ball Lightning is however many Ball Lightnings you can cast in the time that it takes, Ball Lightning to orbit and not leave. So, you can get like 10, 20 Ball Lightnings around you. So that's why these will like always be S tier unless they nerf the shit out of them. And they'll always be better than the other builds. It's because of the stacking. So that's just like a macro version of why they're so good. And then Frozen Orb got a lot of buffs that I'm going to go over. I honestly, Frozen Orb will probably be high A tier. I have an S tier. I don't feel like making a new infographic, but Frozen Orb's going to be really good. So we'll see exactly. I'll remake this tier list after the PTR. We'll see how things go on. But Ice Shard's got a damage buff. Fireball's still pretty good. Fireball's good. Charge Bolt's got a buff to Staff of Lamessen, and it's looking pretty good now because you got more ranks and some of the cooldown issues got solved. That normally arose when you have to run a staff. Arc Lash is still going to be pretty good, but Arc Lash has bossing damage issues. That's all I'm going to talk about. And then I put Spark in here because of my Spark Lycander build. I still think this is going to be really good, mainly because Lycander shrines scale with enemy level. So as we get higher pits, higher enemy levels, Shrine Staff is going to be strong. B tier, Chain Lightning didn't get really any buffs. It's got some boss damage issues, but it's still good. We'll see what kind of temperings we get that maybe make it a lot better. Firewall, it's just slow. It's still really good. You can get some super crazy high damage out of Firewall now. And Incinerate. Incinerate got some buffs, so like Incinerate being in B tier, that's really good for it. Proud of my guy. He was homeless for a long time. We got him a job at the car wash. He's finally getting back on his feet. Really proud of him. He's off drugs. We got him on Suboxone. He's doing pretty good. And then these are my small purse chicks bring to parties. These are my accessories. I don't exactly know where to put these on the tier list. Hydra got some pretty good buffs. Meteor, Meteor wasn't the hype that we thought it was going to be, but it wasn't as ass as it used to be. So we'll see. You can sprinkle these in the builds just as long as, just remember, don't just put it in because you want to put it in. Put it in if it provides value. If it's not just like another more actions that your brain has to think about doing just to do them for the sake of it. Because I've tried to put Meteor on like every build last season, and I ended up just being like, why the fuck am I putting this here? It's easier to just run straight Fireball. And then S tier is Selig. Stop asking me about it. This thing sucks. I mean, I'm gonna eat my words when we end up running Selig because some high tier of Pit is so hard that we need it. But yeah, Selig's S tier. It's called the Selig is basically just the Resplendent Spark. All right, so Blizzard still king. Enchantments that I'm thinking are straight up just Frozen Orb, Firebolt. Firebolt for the Dev Blaze damage, for Flame Feeder Glyph, and Frozen Orb as the applicator, and to get Vuln and to freeze enemies faster. That's it. Those enchants are what you run on Blizzard. If you want, you can look into dropping Firebolt for Ice Shard enchant. We've seen that. It's pretty fun. It can be really good, but we're looking at best build all around, bossing, stuff like that. We're doing that. I'm not going to be running Ancient Flame anymore. We're going to be running Shatter. So the flat damage aspects, Glacial will now scale with weapon damage. I don't think they have to be slotted on a weapon for this to happen. I just think as your weapon damage gets higher, they're going to get better. We saw some like 23.5% increases to some aspects, so we don't know the full numbers. But I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think we might be getting more damage out of flat damage aspects, and this could be an issue. What makes Blizzard even better, and we have multiple Vuln sources now. Lightning Spear, Frozen Orb. We have a Cursed Touch now, and that really helps with the Frigid Fate legendary node and the Icefall legendary node, which both require vulnerable. Devouring Blaze buff. It's 1.6x crit damage to crowd-controlled burning enemies. So anything that your Frozen Orb touches is chilled and on fire. So 1.6x damage, just perma. That's with 6 ranks. We have permanent ice armor. We have less DR issues. Blizzard was fine, but it did have some DR issues in comparison to the lightning builds, which can get a lot more DR. As you found out, if you ever ran a standard build with it, with just like a Disobedience Helmet and Raiment Antiballs, like you can feel a little squishy. Frozen Orb got buffs, so that's super dope. And Shattered Aspect buffs, so we'll see. We'll run that, as I say. Depends how hard bosses are, but yeah, Shattered's just going to do a ton more damage if you decide to run that. But Blizzard builds really only have 4 free aspects and 3 free aspects if you choose to run Blizzard only has 4 aspect slots, 2 of which are taken by Glacial and Frozen Tundra. So, and that's if you're running like a wand focus. So you have 2 free aspect slots to play with. That's like your gloves and like your focus. And then if you're running a staff, you now only have 1 free aspect slot, and that's on your gloves. So it's sort of a tough slot to take Shattered to give up when it's like, do I want Frozen Orbit for more Vuln and more damage out of my Frozen Orbs? Or do I want Conceited just for like 1.25x damage? I don't know. Or like, do I want Accelerating so that when my Frozen Orb hits things, stuff like that. So it's a hard slot sometimes. All right, this is a bit messy, but Ball Lightning. So Lightning Spear is now him with the Conj Mastery buff. It's gonna be crazy. So the Conj, every single. I'm gonna go over some of these. There's options that you can run with Ball Lightning with the enchantments. They all have the base with Lightning Spear enchant. I don't care what anybody says. Don't tell me 10% low. You make a shit ton of Lightning Spears, and I don't know. I got this build dialed in. It feels great. I'm doing me. I'm doing my thing. We're running Lightning Spear enchant, especially now, and I can't wait to see everybody follow me after all these naysayers have said Lightning Spear enchant sucks. Like, fuck off. So yeah, absorbing crackling energy has a 10% chance to conjure Lightning Spear. So I don't advise this one, but this is just like stuff to talk about. Like, you can run Destructive Chain Lightning enchant with it, even though it doesn't work, even though Static Surge doesn't work with Destructive Seal anymore. Like, you are getting Chain Lightnings, and they are making crackling energy, so that will give you more spears. Or, bread and butter is Ball Lightning enchantments, really good with BL. Also too, like Ice Blade enchantments that you can get more Conjurations, so that you can scale your damage higher, or even just Firebolt enchant, so you can get Dev Blaze damage. Or even Frozen Orb enchant, because the plan is, and even on all of these like variants that I'll probably fuck around with, I'm going to be running the Fractured Winterglass aspect, so that all my Lightning Spears are just shitting out Frozen Orbs. So this Frozen Orb enchant might not even be needed. We'll see. So this is sort of what it's going to look like. Like, if you do choose to run the Frozen Orb, 3 defensives, maybe Lightning Spear on the bar, Ball Lightning, and then Unstable Currents. Lightning Spear got an 8% damage buff. Whatever, that's fine, but we'll take it. And then Splintering, aspect of Splintering got buffed. Casting a Lightning Spear. Now it always spawns an additional spear, and it increases your damage with lightning skills by 25% for 3 seconds. So we'll see what kind of uptime we have on Lightning Spear itself on the skill bar. And the way Splintering works now is it works with, there's a hard cast, there's an enchant
cast where it casts one, and there's a unstable currents casting one. Right now, splintering works with all three, and it says casting, so it shouldn't. It should only work with the hard cast, but it works with all three. So the question is, if splintering works with all three, ooh, this is gonna be great. All right, so we're still gonna be running flicker steps. That's fine. It's just so goated. You're gonna get so much value out of them. And then so Conj Mastery buffs, Frozen Orb buffs, Flicker Steps are still OP, and then will this enhanced BL node get fixed? Who fucking knows? Maybe. It's crazy synergies with Winter Glass and 4 because of the Lightning Spears. Frozen Orb got a straight up 20% damage buff, and like Blizzard, I'm looking at Firebolt and Frozen Orb enchant. Frozen Orb, make more Frozen Orbs, and make stuff burning for Deathblaze. Travel distance is now controllable. It's going to be less clunky. The second node, is now just a normal 45% damage while healthy. Used to be some bullshit with elites or frozen enemies and being above 40 mana. They just simplified it. So I'm stoked about that. The third node, went from a 35 to a 40% vuln chance. And I really think what's going to make Frozen Orb like potentially bridge the gap to S tier is the 20% damage buff, the travel distance now be controllable, and like all these other things, and the fractured winter class amulet where like you make conjurations and you shit them out. Frozen Orbit also got a huge buff up to 60%, so who knows? Maybe we'll slap this on a staff. That'd be sick. And yeah, Winter Glass will most likely not work with the enchant, just the hard cast. Incinerate, I'm really stoked. I put a big B up here. So Flamethrower's aspect, Incinerate is going to split into 3 beams. Now, so basically you got arcing support with it at the cost of an aspect. They're going to deal 85% of normal damage. So they learn their lesson by implementing aspects with like this huge hit to the damage. Like 85% is totally fair. And now Conflagration. 40% burning damage before. Now it's 40% burning damage, and you get a little mini X Valves explosion with it. And now we're gonna get more damage reduction. So they're sticking firm with their guns that you need to sit still and channel with it. I really wish you could move and channel. That would honestly fix the skill because that's its whole sole issue. But now you get more damage reduction when you sit there like a fucking duck. Charge Bolt's got some love. I'm really looking at Charge Bolt enchant and Firebolt enchant, or maybe like BL enchant, Firebolt enchant. We'll see. But something with Firebolt enchant, maybe even Frozen Orb. Fuck it. You get a Frozen Orb. You get a Frozen Orb. I'm going to be Oprah this season with Frozen Orb. So I've already been of because it's one of the best enchants in the game. So the Staff of Lamessen got more ranks to Charge Bolts, which is huge because more ranks equals better boss deeps. And Greater Charge Bolts got a little bit of a buff, but we'll see if you want to run this for the more damage to stunned enemies. We don't really have mobbing issues, or if we want to run destructive charged bolts for 25% more DR. And then some of the cooldown issues have been solved while running the staff because the master worked and greater affixes on cooldown reduction on helmet and amulet. So that's dope. Firewall, no major buffs really. I mean, it's kind of open-ended with the enchantments, like Firewall enchant, and then pick either like Fireball or I think there could be you have your hybrids. I like Firewall as a hybrid because it's a little bit. Firewall's a really boring build, so I do like to put like Meteor or Hydra on it just to like give it some fun. And then there's stuff that you can do with Ancient Flame and Asu's Ferocity from these procs to get value out of Asu's Ferocity and to get more attack speed because for whatever fucking reason, Firewall's got the slowest goddamn cast speed ever. So I'm gonna make variants of these two. I think these are fun. You could work in Frozen Orb, not the new unique amulet, but just like work it in for some chill. Torch got fixed, so that's super dope. And as you can see, this is a picture from this season that Currymon sent. He was getting 164 million damage ticks, so it's pretty crazy. So Firewall, it's slow as shit. We're gonna try and figure out ways to get good attack speed. Potential synergy with Hydra, and there's a new one. This is new unique Flame Weaver. It looks kind of mid, but I think it could be good for leveling because Glinting Firebolt's really good with Firewall because you get more burning damage. Casting a Firebolt through your Firewall, it splits into 4 bolts. They deal damage. So that's something that just to look into, like early World Tier 4. Like I play Firewall when I'm leveling because it's like it hits above its weight class, even though it's slow. But you can knock out some like good, fucking content in Nightmare Dungeons solo that you shouldn't be able to do normally just because it's like it's solid. So Flame Weaver looks like it's gonna be a little bit of fun. All right, so Ice Shard's got a 28% damage buff. So that's huge. I'm also looking at Frozen Orb and Firebolt enchant. It's 28% damage buff, enhanced. The ricochet chance went up, and that's where they have a 40% chance to ricochet off another enemy. And there's a 100% chance when enemies are frozen. Um, so in my builds, I opt to not run destructive charge bolts, destructive ice shards, for the vulnerable because I can get vuln other ways, whether it's a cursed touch, lightning spear, or frozen orb. Because I like greater ice shards. I want ice shards to always ricochet. I think it's way more fun and just better AOE. So we'll see. Conjurations, so the stonks of lightning spear and ice blade enchant just went up a lot. Conjurations are nice buffs, but I don't really like full conj builds. They just feel off. The same thing I think, the way I see Meteor and Hydra and stuff like that, the way I treat Lightning Spear is their accessories, their purses, their scarves to other builds to enhance and make them better. So like I really don't want to do a full conj build. Like just fucking play a normal build and work conj into it. Conj should be a tool to make your build better and give you some form of utility because it's not a damage. They're not huge damage dealers. Stop trying to make them. Uh, so yeah, we have the Winter Glass Amulet. That's going to be huge. Going to get a lot of stuff out of Conj. Like, you'll be making Lightning Spears to stun and give Vuln. You're going to be making Ice Blades to reduce cooldowns. Frost Nova Enchant got a little bit of a buff. So, it's lucky hit chance for Conjuration skills. It's still going to be shit. Because Conj doesn't have good LHC. Conj Mastery got buffed through the moon. Concentration, it got changed. I think it's a defensive aspect now. 25% DR for 5 seconds after you cast a conj. Now you get 2 Hydras at base, and 3 with Serpentine aspects, so that's super sick. And now our Sorcerer companions, which I believe, pretty damn sure, because Hydra would be our only companion that Sorcerer has, now receive 100% of the player's attributes. So yeah, LS and Iceblade enchant are cooking. We're going to see a lot of cool stuff with Frozen Orb. Conj Mastery's busted. Ice armor is super busted. Permanent ice armor is possible. Points in ice armor, like actually taking points in ice armor, and ranks on boots now have value. It's most likely going to get nerfed, but must slot because of this right here. Mystical is whatever. You're going to chill enemies now and deal more damage to frozen enemies. But the real thing is shimmering. Every time you spend 50 mana while Ice Armor is active, reduces cooldown by 2 seconds. So, Perma Ice Armor. Frost Nova's got a little bit of a leveling angle for the 37th time. The enchant is still mid. But right here, Shimmering Frost Nova. So you have Mystical Frost Nova is the Vuln one, and now Shimmering is, you get 15% dodge chance when you hit a bunch of enemies. For the next 8 seconds, you keep the effect, and a dodge generates 20 mana. So that's, mana is hard to come by when you're leveling, so this can help a bit. Teleport, nothing too major. Basically, the enhanced node used to be, you'd get reduced cooldown when you land on somebody. The enhanced node's the second node on it. Now it got switched with Bounding Conduit. Bounding Conduit used to be movement speed. That's now on the second node. And now you just get like a 2.5 second reduction in your teleport cooldown when you slot this. I kind of like that change. It was a bit too free before, and now you actually have to spec into it. Mystical, the third node, is now like 500% damage on your teleport. So this actually could get wild. This is going to be the new Helltide. It's going to be a new Helltide angle, let me tell you that. One bang and all the enemies with teleport enchant and attacks reduce evade. This could get pretty wild. We could see some nutty builds. I'm looking forward to that one. Shimmering, still really good. The other third node didn't get changed, but it's just reminding you. 30% DR, still really good. So attacks reduce evade can no longer trigger on an unstable current proc. So that was part of the reason teleport enchant was so busted, because when we would evade, it's a teleport, it counts as a shock skill, it would proc an unstable current, and it would reduce itself with attacks reduce evade boots. And now you can better control the distance on controller for all you Xbox plebs, so you guys can have that, I don't know, something with the intensity of how far you're pushing it. Good luck with that. All right, that's it for the slideshow. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back at it in the PTR. Zoink, I'm bigger now. All right, so yeah, we'll be back at it during the PTR after it's over and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll stream a little bit. But I'm gonna post some builds in here too, some PTR builds. Okay. I've been making them on D4 builds because their stuff is a bit up to date. Okay. Peace.